ladies and gentlemen, Talking Hands here again, and today we're going over a lot of kit. So, if you haven't noticed, there's an event coming up that I'm attending. I actually made a trailer for it on my channel. It's called Disrupt Charge. And I thought I'd go over the gear that I'm bringing for this event. It's a pretty serious roleplay intensive Milsim. It's going to be cold. It's going to be some adverse conditions, which requires me to carry a fair amount of gear and to keep myself warm. So I thought I'd go over the essentials of what I need to play airsoft, along with a few sustainment things. I'm not going to show you my thermal underwear. I'm not going to show you my change of clothes. Like, obviously these things are needed. I'm out for 48 hours in sub-freezing conditions, so I think that much is self-proven, but I'll show you some of the gear that I am bringing along. So I think we'll start with line one, move our way over to load bearing, and then we can talk like camping and sustainment gear, what I think is necessary. So we can start with my uniform. There's a uniform requirement at this specific event, which for my team requires us to be in full multicam. You've seen the other video. Uniforms for us is Ranger Green multicam, so not that big of a change up, but I've got this Cry G3 multicam combat shirt, which will be my lowest layer. It'll be my immediate line one. Game rule says that you need to be clearly marked if you're a medic, so I brought these like high-vis medic badges. I think high-vis fits better than black does. Didn't have any call signs in yellow, so this is what it is. Pretty standard G3 combat shirt, nothing fancy. For my pants, this is a little more interesting. This is Roman Kumat's custom gear. They are based on the Cry G3 cut, which means you got your snuff pockets, your screwdriver pockets, your big thigh pockets, and your large side pouches. I'm using the Cry G4 knee pads in there because they apparently are better in woodland. I've yet to test them enough to actually have an opinion on that. Why not go Roman Kumats? Roman Kumats makes high quality custom gear. Usually you see his stuff when people are rocking like Cry G3 cuts for Rhodesian brushstroke or Flectarn or like other weirder-ish camos. I went with multicam, Cry pattern multicam, mostly because I'm a 34 extra long, and those aren't really in stock anywhere. And you can buy them used, but they rarely show up, and I got sick of waiting. I got sick of running around in my claw gears, so I decided to just bite the bullet and get something custom done. So these are literally identical to G3 Cries, same material as well. They're just not made by Cry. So instead of having the Cry brand, I believe it's on the knee pad somewhere. You can see here, it just says Kumat's gear. It's nothing fancy. Yeah. But yeah, G3 Cry combat cuts with the ferro inner belt. Nothing major to it. Then I'm using gaiters. Now, gaiters are, when you say gaiters, you probably think wet weather, but cold weather can be wet weather, and there's nothing colder than if you're wet. So I want to avoid that as much as possible, so I'm packing these gaiters. These gaiters are from Audi Gear. I tried getting a hold of some outdoor research gaiters because I know they work, but good luck tracking those down in multicam. I've already used these like a fair bit. They seem perfectly fine. Good retention, nice IR treated multicam, so nothing fancy. They're gaiters, but I'm bringing them. Then, first Hypebeast thing. This is I call them Warm and Fuzzy, but I think their actual name is WRMFZY. They did a collab with Kilo out in New York. They've done a lot, but this is one of them. This is a reversible DCU to Desert Night Camo hoodie thing. It's a very light Dow jacket. I use it as an insulating layer. It's very good for that as an insulating layer. It holds the heat extremely well. The hood is actually pretty collapsible. Like, you can fold it down so it doesn't itch so much around your neck. It will prevent you from breathing, but it does still insulate really nicely. I tried using it as like an outer layer and gave it some beatings, and it has gotten a few marks against it for that because it wasn't made for that, and it clearly fucking tells. but this is my insulating layer. It's a nice insulating layer. There are probably cheaper alternatives out there than that Hypebeast clothing stuff, but if you're gonna go Hypebeast, at least go tactical Hypebeast because they're built to somewhat hold up to the task. My outer layer is gonna be the Arcturus Cold Weather Leaf. This is a Gen 1 in Ranger Green. Nothing major to it. This is a really great piece of kit for cold weather. I would never wear this outside of the winter season because it is a very effective jacket in keeping you warm. It's shooter jacket cut, so it will run just around the belt level. I usually like when it's really cold to actually tuck the jacket down and wear the belt outside the jacket. That way I can still have full access to my shooter belt and not break my insulation layer, which is really useful if it's super cold. But yeah, it's an Arcturus Cold Weather Leaf. Leaf is Arcturus' brand for law enforcement armed forces, I think is what it's called. So it's their military grade stuff. It's a really great jacket. I'll probably do a review on it if you actually want a review on it, but everybody in this game has seen an Arcturus jacket before. They're worn by so many special operations groups, it's not even funny. If not in Ranger Green, then in Multicam, or if not those, then it's definitely being worn in Wolf Grey by the British CTSFOs. So it's a really nice jacket. That's my outer layer. And then I haven't gotten this because it's actually in my bag, but I have another layer which is a poncho that I can just pull over to isolate myself from rain or downpour if that comes in well. Because again, cold might be cold, but cold is gonna get cold if you get wet. I guess we can move on. So speaking further onto line 1, this is like my 2 main not in combat gear. So I have a Cry Precision Maritime custom boonie. I don't know what's custom about it. I think it's maritime because the boonie gap is shorter, so it vents easier if it gets wet. This is mostly infield, where if I think we have an in-game BSO, so if I'm walking around the BSO and I don't want to be an obvious target, I use this. And then another piece of Hypebeast gear. This is a Forward Operations Group recce hat. I'm probably going to just be using this as a shooter's cap, or heading to the event, or heading from the event, or if I just want to look drippy on the downtime. And then I think we can move on to actual protective gear, starting with my helmet setup. So a couple of things different about this helmet setup from what you might have seen previously, mainly being that I have this skirm net over it. My team rocks a lot of different helmets. We have Cry Repros, we have X-Fills, we have ACHs, and in order for us to seem more uniform, because people should have their helmet preferences, I know I do, we added the option of putting on a scrim net for the entire team, because that sort of uniforms the shape with us without us needing to actually rock the same helmet on everybody. I think the setup is almost the same as you might have seen before. We start with the front ESS. I think these are X1100s. Sorry, not ESS. They're Boley X1100s. Really great ballistic rated goggles. I usually don't like goggles at Milsim events. I'll rock some other glasses that you can see when we're going through my load bearing. But these are really great backups. Or if things get dicey, we get CQB, then I like to switch to goggles. Always nice to just have them on my helmet, so I already have them in place. The worst I need to do is I need to go blind man, take a knee, bury myself, and then just switch these over. Super easy to do. Patches, call sign patch, TFD, the end patch. I have light on my helmet. I've learned to really appreciate the ability to actually see something with a helmet without needing to actually hold a light or to point your rifle at anything. This specifically has a small reddish lens cap, so it's easier for nighttime and it doesn't view as well. Besides, it's just BM to shine a pink light in someone's face. Storm marking device just for the drip, doesn't actually do damn shit. And battery compartment. This can be a power bank compartment for the GoPro, or this could be actual batteries for potential night vision use if I manage to get my hand on some of that. Unity mounts for my Swordens. I really like these low pro Unity mounts. I don't like all the clicky nonsense from the ops cores. These are just a set mount that when you slide them into place, they lock retention in immediately, keep the headset nice and tight to your face without necessarily squishing your head. Obviously Sword and MSA Pros, Supreme X Pros, whatever. They're great, no comment. And a Wendy cloud liner for the inside of my Ops Core repro. Moving on from helmet stuff to load bearing stuff, here is my Ferro Concept Slick Store. You already made a video on most of this. There's a few additions to this. Mayflower Gen 4, the Pusher rig. Don't know why they just called it Pusher. This is sort of a T-Rex arm style setup, so if you're in tune to his content and what he recommends, you'll know exactly what the thought process is. So I'm not going to go through and explaining it like it's my own opinions. Moving from one side to the other, what do I actually use these giant pouches for? Big GP pouch, mainly used for an Nalgene bottle. Can fit an NV device in there if need be, but mostly an Nalgene bottle. 2 big GP pouches, which I use for literally anything. Could be empty mags, could be navigation tools, could be extra flashlights. Nobody knows, nobody cares. Inside the pistol pouch, I usually use a multi-tool or a flashlight. And inside this big GP pouch, I'm using Pyramex goggles, extra maps, stuff like that. And then inside here, I have the Mayflower included SR25 AR10 inserts, which also has the Haley Strategic Kydex inserts in them, so, for that nice clicky effect. The last one here is dedicated to my tourniquet, which also gives me free access to my knife. I'm only using 3 mags in the rig because at these events, you usually have a pretty strict magazine restriction. So more often than not, I'm only using 2 mags in my rig, 1 in my belt and 1 in my gun. So I might as well use the last pocket for something useful, in this case holding onto a tourniquet. I have the Ferro Concepts knife nook holding my knife in place. It's not a fancy knife at all. I'm trying to get a tour knife if they can not be sold out for a single moment. But is it gonna get talking baseball for a sec? I prefer the Ferro Concepts knife nook to the wing thing for carrying a knife, specifically because I can remove the knife nook from my kit if I dress down and I just need to cut down the paracord or whatever. I remove the entire thing and it can still fit in my pocket. So it's actually really nice where the wing thing is this big thing that sticks out, so you actually need to carry 2 knives, which I'm not about. Ferro Concepts admin pouch, I already talked about this. One thing has changed in this, and that's the fact I'm probably going to switch it out with like an ATAX kit or a Juggernaut case or something, because I don't use it because of this like major real estate and GP I get down here, so I don't actually use my admin pouch. Then I have a handset for my radio. This handset is like my rudimentary just fallback, because it works. It just works. My headset goes down, radio can't communicate, something like that. The source is a PCT and speaker as well. So it's kind of a foolproof system that just functions. Don't use the Baofeng one, get a slightly nicer one and you'll have a rudimentary radio system that will always work. Speaking of radio stuff, I'm using the Ferro Concepts Comlink shoulder pads, I think they're called. They're padded at the bottom and have these holes at the top, which makes it way easier to manage cables up into your headset. I like them a lot. And speaking of all that comms nonsense, here's my radio pouch. It's probably meant for PRC-50. It's a large pouch, but right now it's hosting this itty bitty Baofeng with a foldable antenna and a small chem light holder thing where I also keep some writing utensils. And my back is slick because, as you probably noticed from my other video, I need to carry my medic backpack. I've already made a video on this pack. It's the TAC Ops TSSI Mark 9. Go watch my video if you want a full breakdown on how I set this up and how I feel about this. A couple things that changed since that video. Added a high-vis med patch for it. Added a side pouch so I can carry other people's shit. Don't like that, don't ask me about it. Stop making me carry your shit. And inside, the layout is pretty much exactly the same as what you've already seen. So if you want a rundown of how this works and why I've set it up the way I've done, go watch that video. For my belt setup, it's the Ferro Concepts Bison belt. I've also done a video on this, so I'm not going to go too in depth about it all. But one thing you will notice is that I have a thick boy magazine on here instead of my usual M4 Kydex insert. This is just some cheap boy Chinese weird thing that I found because I had to emergency switch weapons platforms. And the keen-eyed amongst you that might not include crayons on your diet have already noticed what kind of mag that is. You'll see it later, but obviously there it is. And I think one other thing that changed is that I'm using a VFC Umarex G45. Why G45? I really like the Gen 5 slide cuts and the look of the Gen 45 or Gen 5, but sadly, I couldn't find any Gen 17 or Glock 17 Gen 5, so it became a Glock 45 instead because I have big hands, I need the Gen 17 grip. It was the best compromise I could find. One thing I changed about this, I zero coated the slide because this powder coat bullshit that VFC puts on their slides is absolute dog. And this is my gripe with this company, is that people buy your stuff for the markings, for the engravings, for the finish, for the look. Like, this is one-to-one with a real Glock 45. Why would you skimp out on the coating? The one thing that people are buying your stuff for is the aesthetic. Why would you skip on the aesthetic? I hate VFC. H-Series Cerakote. Inside the belt, I keep my NB Tactical Balaclava. The single best Milsim friendly option for carrying face protection. NB Balaclava combined with their NB mouthguard, and you have a 100% bulletproof setup that looks great for Milsim. Can't recommend it enough. Speaking of something else that's on my hip, Spirit System fanny sack. I really like this fanny sack setup. I think I mentioned it a couple of times. People have been asking, like, why a fanny pack and not a dangler? Fanny packs can move, danglers cannot. So I can run this in the front if I actually need to access the stuff that's in here. If I don't, if it's in the way, if I'm crouching and it's not where it needs to be, I can slide it around to my side, no sweat whatsoever. Or even all the way on my back, and I can have buddy stuff in here. Doesn't matter. The position is 360 degrees rotatable, which is what I love about a fanny sack. Spirit Systems also makes a great fanny sack, that helps. Whereas a dangler can get in the way a lot. It can fold up in a weird way. And some people use them as like impact protection for their stomachs, but I'd rather have the convenience of this than a belly ache sometimes. What am I going to be eating? I'm going to be eating Department of Defense certified MREs. This is mostly because MREs are really easy to pack down and they're easy to deconstruct. So if I'm not eating the hot dish right away, I can take the snack or the bread, keep myself sustained and up, and then I can easily pack away the rest. So they're just easy to pack down. I would use like trekking dry food or whatever, but they're not as good as MREs, and MREs are pretty bad. So take that for what it's worth. And they're expensive. Like, this is a whole ass meal that can actually keep me personally going for a half a day. Like, I can skip a meal with having one of these, just because I don't run that well, I guess. And it's fine. Whereas like dried food or freeze ready meals from like actual hiking, I definitely need 3 of those, maybe even 4, and they cost as much if not more than an MRE. So speaking on the note of sustainment gear, this is the only thing I'm going to show off. This is a Trek-made Squall bivy bag. I recently acquired this because I managed to actually play an event sub freezing temperatures with an Arctic bag and like a Squall bag. It was really nice, so I bought one. This is a bivy bag that's actually one-man tent because it's a bivy bag with 2 poles. So it has all the benefits of a bivy bag: compact, lightweight, easy to set up. But it doesn't have all the downsides of a bivy bag, which is crippling claustrophobia and so much condensation. So this is sort of the golden middle road where it's the same size, but it uses titanium rods, which are super light. So they're very, very easy to pack down. It's only like that much bigger packed down than, for example, like a Corinthia Expedition or Stratosphere. So I really, really like this thing. Now, in terms of what I'm actually sleeping in, that depends on mission set. So it's going to be cold for this event, so I'll be using an Arctic bag from Snugpack, an insulated self-blowout mat, and probably like an acidic thermal mat as well. So that'll keep me nice and warm. Heat won't suck out from me. I'm not the guy to ask about this shit. Go watch any YouTuber that does hiking, search for like best big 3s for hiking, and you'll find exactly the same information I have. So for the weapon, I'm using a VFC Gen 1 Scar H. Nothing really much to say here. It's a kind of a beat to shit Scar H from VFC. VFC makes dog shit AGs, so this is pretty upgraded. I can go through the internals. It's using a Warhead brushless motor, new gearbox because again the one VFC makes is made of string cheese. Internally, it's mostly Model Max air seal parts with the Model Max extended nozzle for the Scar H. I'm using a 110 spring in this, so it's shooting 1.6 Joule. That's like 400 FPS, so it's a standard rifleman 14-inch barrel. And I think it's 18:1 gearing, short stroke 2 teeth, with a Jeff Tarl Leviathan that's about 45% pre-cocking. So it's pretty snappy, single shot build, because I'll be running semi-only at this event, because I'm not an LMG. Makes sense. And this was meant to be a DMR. Obviously because of the heavy caliber, and then also it's meant to have a longer barrel. Speaking of barrel, I did also get the Model Max hop-up unit for the VFC Scar, because again the VFC Scar kind of made a cheese, so I got an upgraded hop-up unit as well. In terms of optics, I'm running a Holy Warrior Voodoo clone. I think it's meant to be a repro of the Voodoo. It works fine. Compared to like rifle quality optics, it's bad to good. Compared to airsoft optics, it's probably one of the better ones. I know a lot of Vortex fanboys is going to go out and say, nah, you should have gotten a Strike Eagle. And it's like, yeah, if I wanted to pay twice the price of the Holy Warrior for the same performance, and for those people who are saying that, no, the Strike Eagle is actually really, really good, well, why then does Vortex makes the actual good LPVO in the Razor if the other one's so good? Ha 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 ha. Anyway, it's a 1:6 LPVO. I haven't tried playing a lot with LPVOs, so I'll mostly be using this as a demo while I'm rocking an EOTech and a magnifier with me as a backup if I don't like it. It's attached to a Geisley repro mount. I don't need fancy mounts because there's no handling of recoil, so there's no chance of this getting off optics. As long as it's level, it's completely fine. And it looks great. Moving down the barrel, I have a BCM type grip, which is canted in the forward position. I don't use this to actually hold on to, but I use this mainly as something for my hand to slide back on if I'm engaging the contact. So for example, when I'm just normally shooting, I beer can grip it pretty hard. And then as I'm moving my thumb to engage the switch on my cloud defensive switch thing, I'm actually tilting my hand down to cant it. So it still gives me a comfortable grip on the rifle. I'm not gonna drop it or squish it out of my grip while being able to cant the hands down. So I don't actually use it as a grip. I mostly just use it as a index point. Genuine Surefire M600 Scout Light with a lens protector on it. And that's attached to a PVS SRX Scar extension. This is because before this was a 14-inch upper, it was meant to be an 18-inch DMR upper with the AAC can on it. But I was actually prepared to use my Mark 18 for this event. Something failed, had to think quick, made this a 14-inch rifle instead, and now it's just a really fancy CAG-style rifleman's rifle. So I think that's actually it. Obviously expect the video from this event. I'll be filming ongoing throughout the event. And now you have this to watch in the meantime, if you're one of the 2 people that actually watch this shit. Have a good time.